Hi everyone, it is Sam here. I had something in my teeth, I apologize. We just got done doing a video for Bites of Wellness. If you haven't checked that out, go check out our website or our Facebook page. It's got some really fun information, but today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about another inflammation causing addiction. So a lot of us are addicted to stress. We just love it. We can't kind of get out of the cycle of stress. The other thing that is causing a ton of inflammation that is going to be just as difficult to give up is sugar. So I know a lot of you, the dairy and gluten is enough. You can't even fathom giving up sugar, and that is okay. I am totally okay with that. What I do want to bring attention to, though, is that when you are giving up things like gluten and dairy, we tend to find things that we can still find comfort in that aren't necessarily the cheese or bread or crackers or whatever your kind of go-to was before. So a lot of the times we end up with really sugary things to replace that. So sugar is, of course, in so much stuff. So if it's processed, it's probably got some form of sugar added to it. High fructose corn syrup, just white sugar. A lot of companies like to use the word organic and it's still sugar, things like that. And then, of course, you know, people get really crazy and go, oh, fruit and sweet potatoes and all that stuff. We're not even going to worry about that side of it. If you are stuffing your face with apples and oranges, just get away from the dairy and the gluten, and double high fives for you, okay? Don't even worry about that. Excuse me. But if you are finding things like gluten-free cookies and, you know, gluten-free cupcakes, and you're like, oh, gluten-free, I can have all I want, remember that there's probably a ton of sugar in there, and that a lot of the times those things are just as processed, if not more processed, because they've got to put together a ton of different ingredients to make that same texture that you're used to when you're eating something that's not gluten-free or dairy-free. So just kind of want to put that out there first. So if you're not getting anything else out of this information right now, all I want you to hear is that if gluten and dairy are enough for you to eliminate, you can just sit back as an observer, pile this away for later when it's not so difficult to think about what the next step is in reducing your inflammation. But if you have a pretty good handle already on maybe you've given up dairy in the past and you know you can get through this, or you've given up gluten, or you've given up those two things and you're ready to take it to the next level, you can either reduce your stress, you can reduce your sugar, you can start getting more sleep, which is what we'll talk about tomorrow, or you can start doing some other things as well. So today we're talking about sugar. Now, why am I so concerned about sugar? Well, unfortunately, sugar has a tendency to compete in your body for receptors like calcium and things like that. And it also makes your blood what they call out of a pH balance. So if you eat too much sugar at one time, let's talk really quickly through what that does in your body. So your body automatically gets a ton of sugar right away, right? Your blood, sugar is actually toxic, just like alcohol. So your body is like, okay, we got to get rid of that really fast. So it either says, okay, insulin, let's spike up. So insulin is your carrier hormone. So its job is to pick things up and carry it to its final destination. So your body says, insulin, spike up, which is fine. That's its job. And take this sugar away. Got to get it out of our body, okay? So the body goes to three places. It's going to take it to your liver for storage. And it's got, so if you think about your storage for your liver, it's got about this much room. Your muscles through your whole body, they've got about this much room, okay? And then the rest of the sugar, if it can't find a place in your liver or in your muscles, it is automatically put into fat because it is toxic for your body to have it going round and round and round in. So your body says, here's the three places, check, check, or check. It's gonna go in one of those three places, okay? Unfortunately, what happens during that process is that your blood gets a little bit kind of out of whack during that whole process. So a lot of the times what your body does to compensate is it says, we could really use some calcium or some magnesium or some other mineral to help balance out the pH in our blood because it got way too high, way too fast. So it actually leaches calcium from your bones to make the pH balance to go back to normal. So not only are you adding to your fat cells, you are potentially, especially if you're eating sugar all day long, you have to think, if you had a sugary breakfast and then you didn't go exercise, you are likely already maxed out on your storage. So the rest of the day, any of the sugar that you have is most likely either going to be used immediately for fuel, like moving around, walking, talking, doing what you're doing right now, or it's going to get stored as fat because there's no more room in your muscles or in your liver, okay? It may be leaching calcium out of your bones at the same time, but it's also causing an inflammatory response in your gut because our bodies were not made to handle that much sugar at one time. So if you tend to think, oh my gosh, but I get really like shaky if I don't get sugar, I need something right now, I'm gonna put this little truth bomb and it's gonna rock your world. It literally rocked my world. And I've been listening to stuff like this for a long time. It takes about 1 teaspoon of sugar to balance your blood sugar. 1 teaspoon. I'm just gonna let that marinate for right now. So if you're like, I need sugar right now, candy bar, you just overdid it, okay? You can probably have like an apple and be fine. So I just wanna kind of think about when we are eating food, a lot of the times we are not aware of what it's doing to our body. So a lot of you are seeing that effect already with the dairy and the gluten and how much better you feel. Some of you are already focused on eating more whole foods, and that's automatically going to bring down your consumption of extra sugar. Now, I'm not saying you need to be sugar-free. This is not do a Whole30. This is not eliminate all sugars. Honey's bad, maple syrup's bad. No. You're not getting the message. Your body still needs energy, and it is fine to have sugar. What I want you to be aware of is the fact that the more processed foods that you go to maybe get away from the dairy and the gluten, maybe it's again the cookies or something like that, the more you are still inflaming your body potentially versus looking for substitutes in the whole foods realm. So maybe eating a sweet potato instead of having bread, or having apples and some strawberries or something like that instead of your normal dairy dessert, maybe ice cream or something like that. So I know I've sent you a ton of swaps. I know this can be a little bit overwhelming to hear, and that's not the point. I think sometimes though, it's really important to hear that it's not just about it making you fat or being, unhealthy because it's empty calories, because that's kind of the message that we get a lot of the times. I'm trying to bring awareness to the fact that it is doing damage to your body that makes you not feel your best. So we've all kind of experienced that. If you've ever had like a soda addiction or something like that, and then you stop, but you're still having caffeine somehow, but you still feel really junky. And you're like, oh, why do I feel so bad? It's because you're not getting all the sugar that you're used to, things like that. So your body is definitely in more of an inflamed state if we tend to over-consume sugar. I definitely think there's a time and a place to have your sweet indulgences, but I think being more mindful about how often that happens, aka not breakfast, lunch, dinner, your snacks, on the plane, on the train, all the things, and instead being really mindful can help reduce the inflammation in your body and also potentially help you keep the calcium in your bones and things like that, so that when you are 70, you can be vibrant instead of starting to feel run down, things like that. So I don't know if we have any questions, Dave.
Sharon just asked your thoughts on honey and agave nectar.
Honey, I think, is a really, really good, awesome substitute to, let's say, white sugar. It's still got the same calories, and it's still going to have a glycemic index response. So the same kind of response that happens when you have just sugar is going to happen, where your body says this needs to go somewhere. But the nice thing is that when you're having honey, it's also going to give your body vitamins and minerals instead of leaching from your body those vitamins and minerals. So when you are choosing something to sweeten your food with, honey is therefore a better option. A lot of times honey tends to be a little bit sweeter as well, so you don't need as much, so the response in your body tends to be less. Now agave, or agave, however you want to say it, they have not had a lot of positive research on that, especially recently. A lot of people are seeing that it has a similar, if not more intense response on your like your glycemic response. So if you are having, let's say, agave or agave next, or however you want to say it, in your tea, and it's just tea and that, you are probably going to be spiking your insulin pretty quickly. But if it's something where it's baked in there and you have a lot of other things blunting that response, it's probably not going to be as intense. But if you had to choose between the two, I would choose honey and maple syrup over the agave, if that makes sense. Any other questions? No? I'm sure a lot of you are going to watch this later. If you have questions, please, please, please feel free to reach out to me in the comments below. You can send me messages. You can just type up a message in the group. I try to respond as quickly as I can. I do want you girls to know that I am insanely proud of you just for getting through 3 days with gluten and dairy being limited, if not completely out of your diet. I hope you are feeling the effects. I hope you are feeling amazing. Tomorrow morning when you wake up, make sure you do your little checklist. How do I feel? How does my stomach feel? How does my joints feel? Things like that, because it's really important when it starts to get closer to the weekend that you remind yourself exactly why you're doing this, so that you can stick with it, so that you can see how it feels after 7 days. So if there are no other questions, no more questions, all right, I am going to pop off here, have some dinner, and enjoy the rest of your day.